And how long did this whole process / experience take?
I have no idea. I think
see.
it was just a few minutes.
Wow, all that in a few minutes. That's incredible.
Yeah, because I don't remember.
Right.
When they brought me back, I didn't remember a thing.
Right. But it was through Dr. Fiore then that you were able to remember this?
Yeah.
Okay.
When she brought me into her office, she put me under hypnosis. And up until that time, I didn't even know. I knew I was interested in extraterrestrials because I remember 2 years old, and during that time, my parents, used to watch space movies and stuff.
Right.
So I remember some of those, and then I remember the spaceship. Then later on in life, I saw this movie called Forbidden Planet from MGM Grand and Walt Disney. And in that movie, there was this flying saucer that just was so interesting and stuff. And so then I found myself starting to draw UFOs. And so anyway, they eventually brought me back to Earth and put me back in bed. And I went back to sleep and woke up the next day, and I didn't feel anything.
Just normal, right? Back to normal?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And then I found out later on in the interview, I found out when I was 10 years old, I was taken again.
I see.
And by the same group. And they took, I guess they took me to their space station. And their space station looked a little bit like a Death Star.
Oh, like from the Star Wars movies?
Yeah.
Okay.
But except their space station wasn't exactly round, but it was more oval.
I see.
But it was a big space station in space, away from their planet. So they took me there, and then when I was there the second time, then I was examined by a robot. And the robot was he was I guess on wheels, and he had arms, and he didn't really say anything to me, but he took his arms. They were like arms. They were like mechanical arms, and he'd bring the arms down, and he would take he would bend his arms, and then he would go all over my body. And the interesting thing was, at the end of the arm was a camera, and then he was recording everything with this camera, and he went all over my body and recorded everything. And then I was there, I don't know how long. I believe it was the same group of people, and then eventually I was taken back to where I was living.
Right.
That happened when I was 10 years old. And when I was 10 years old, I lived in the Santa Cruz Mountains.
Do you have any idea why you were chosen specifically as opposed to any other random person?
Yeah, they told me that I was their contact.
I see.
And so the one reason they saved my life, because I was going to die from the brain tumor, because the Earth doctors didn't have a clue how to solve the problem. They didn't have laser units back in 1946, 47, and 1948.
Right.
So they brought me back. They repaired the brain tumor, and I survived. Then another group came. I think I was now 75, and I was born in 1945. But in 86, another group came. They beamed in like Star Trek. They came through the ceiling. There was one woman, and there were 4 men. One of the men had white skin. Well, they all had robes on, and they all had a white skin. But there was one man who was shorter, had big oval eyes, and his skin pure white, and it looked like the skin of a mushroom.
I see.
He comes in, and he walks up to me, and he puts his hands around my body, and he stays there. What it seemed like it was several minutes, and he put his hands around me and kept them there for maybe 2, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, and then he let go. And what happened is totally amazing. He gave me energy that was really strong, and this energy stayed with me, stayed in my body. I could feel it for about 3 hours, and then finally after 3 hours, the energy went away. While he was with me, the other doctors didn't. They all had white robes on, and then a woman came down from the ceiling. She had blonde hair. She was very skinny, and she came up to me and she said, in a very clear voice, she told me, "Love thyself." And the moment she said that, she beamed out through the ceiling. Wow. Like in Star Trek?
Right.
Okay. Well, this was a Star Trek experience. She comes in, she does what she does, she tells me what she wants to tell me, and then she leaves.
Do you have any idea why this guy just randomly decided to give you energy?
Well, at some point in time, many years ago, I was a part of this group, and this group is from the Pleiades, and they live on a artificial planet that's just like Death Star, but their planet doesn't do what Death Star does. They're not it's not a satellite of destruction. It's a satellite of healing. So this little short man, he took me around to all the different levels in this spacecraft, and I could see that it was very much like Death Star, except it didn't do what Death Star did. And it there were hundreds and hundreds of people living on this spacecraft, and it was amazingly like Death Star. It had a central core that went from the top of the space unit all the way down to the bottom. And people lived on different levels. They had gravity. Nobody floated. Everybody was very happy, very joyous, and it was a wonderful feeling because it was peaceful, and there was so much white light inside this circular satellite that they lived on, and it was white light, and so I knew that this was not Death Star. This was a living unit with a lot of healing light.
I see.
And so finally, all the doctors and this one spaceman, they all slowly. There were 7 doctors, including the short one that gave me a hug, and then the woman, she left right away. But they all left. They all left at the same time.
Now, I have a question. So usually, you're unique, as in none of my other guests on this show have had an experience anywhere close to similar as yours. So usually we ask them sort of, if they share an experience, we ask them like, have you learned some really important lesson that you want to share? And I heard that the lady told you love thyself. And I was wondering if there are any other key takeaways or lessons, I guess, that you learned from this experience that you wanted to share.
Number one.
Hmm?
Number one, I learned that I was once a part of these groups. I was once one of them.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason they came to me
Mm-hmm.
is they want me to be a spokesperson.
I see.
For these groups.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the group from the Pleiades,
Mm-hmm.
they've come here one other time,
Mm-hmm.
but they didn't come to me. I just happened to be walking down the street, and I looked over into this vacant lot
Mm-hmm.
right here in Mountain View,
Mm-hmm.
and they were in the field, and they were doing something to the soil.
Mm-hmm.
What they were doing was that they were, well, in that particular area of Mountain View
Mm-hmm.
is the Hetch Hetchy water system.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were, I believe that they were sanitizing the water.
I see.
And there were about maybe 75 of them in this field.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all doing slightly different things, but they were trying to purify the water.
Mm-hmm.
And then they stayed a while, and then they left.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I haven't seen them since.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the second group.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been three groups
Mm-hmm.
that I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
One came to me and took me to their space station
Mm-hmm.
and did the operation. And then the second group came and told me, love thyself.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's another group that came in early 2000, and they were connected to a comet. There was a group of people
Mm-hmm.
that lived here on the planet, and they believed that they were going to be taken to a place where they could live.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the people that came to the Earth, they supposedly were connected with Comet, I think it was Comet Kahutai,
Mm-hmm.
back I think around 2000. And this was a comet, and it was coming through, and this group of people thought that the people that were connected with the comet
Mm-hmm.
were going to pick them up.
Mm-hmm.
And so these people thought what they did was before the comet left the solar system, they went out and they committed suicide so that they could be with the comet.
Mm-hmm.
They believed that they had to kill themselves
Wow.
to be with the comet. So they killed themselves. And then, of course, the comet left
Mm-hmm.
and went back out into deep space.
Mm-hmm.
And the comet won't be back several thousand years.
Right.
So I've had that much experience. And then, during the time that I was observing the comet with a telescope, I was looking at the head of the comet,
Mm-hmm.
the coma of the comet,
Mm-hmm.
in an iPad. I have a telescope.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking at the comet through the iPad, eyepiece.
Mm-hmm.
And this was early morning, just before sunrise.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was, I saw this very bright object. It was like a headlight of a lamp of a car. It was very bright. It was very small.
Mm-hmm.
But I watched it. And it came down the tail of the comet. It came around the coma of the comet, which is the head,
Mm-hmm.
and then it went back the other side and disappeared. Then it came down again and did that and went up and disappeared one more time. And then shortly thereafter, an earthbound jet came zipping over close to where the comet was.
I see.
And so the earthbound jet looked a lot different than the comet.
Well, thank you.
And I haven't had any other experience for a long time.
Well, thank you for sharing your experiences that you've had so far. So, yeah. I mean, like I said, I've never had a guest on the show that had any experiences that were even close to yours. So I want to say thank you for bringing this new perspective to our show. And to our viewers, yeah, thank you. And to our viewers, like Gary said, if you want to read more about his experience, it's published in a book called Encounters by Dr. Fiore. Well, thank you, Gary, once again for coming on to the show, and thank you to all our viewers for watching. So this is it for today, and if you liked the video, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and see you next time. Bye, viewers.